Let's start, inshallah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, we have brother Syed Mohsin, another Syed Mohsin actually, but the other one was Sultan. So this is actually my team lead, right? So, but I'm gonna be fair in this interview, right, and pretend like I'm not on your team, and we'll do our best to get the discussion going from there. Before we start, I mean, the topic pretty much says it's talking about controversy. For those of us who are tuning in, the idea is that controversy creates a lot of marketing and branding for many people. You hear of people like Andrew Tate, you see him, he's very controversial, but it's also very popular. You have people like Mr. Beast, who's not controversial, but he's also very popular. Um, and the reason why I wanted to interview you is because you've had a few controversial posts, maybe a few, maybe more than a few, right? Um, and I wanted to kind of give you a chance to explain your perspective because there's been many times when people say something and maybe with texting and writing comments, it's not well understood. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. We don't know, right? But at the same time, before we get started, maybe you can give us a little bit of background. I know you're in real estate, so the focus of the podcast is something in relation to Deen or something in relation to real estate. So today is really about real estate. But let's see where we go from there. So you have the floor. Go ahead, inshallah. Give us a little bit of background about you in real estate.
Alhamdulillah. So I've been in real estate 10 years now. It's my 10th year as a licensed real estate agent or broker. In my first 7 years, I was an individual agent up until 2020. And then at the end of 2020, I decided to start my team. So I started my team December of 2020. Uh, it's been 3 years I've been running a team. It's been 2 years I've been a licensed broker in real estate. We are closing in on 1,000 families, help them buy, sell, and invest into real estate. In the past 3 years, I have trained and coached over 25, 30 agents. It's been a year. I started my coaching platform for real estate. So I'm very much into marketing because that's pretty much how I get a lot of my real estate business. And every successful real estate agent, in my opinion, is a successful marketer first. You cannot be successful in any independent sales business without marketing and without creating an authority and brand for yourself. So that's pretty much the background of where I am, and what I focus on is helping agents, team leaders, brokers like myself, teach everything that I have accomplished as far as marketing, as far as building a real estate business. And pretty much that's my focus now, is helping real estate agents and brokers build a successful real estate business.
Okay, nice. So that gives a good background of kind of your experience, how long you've been into it. Pretty much everyone I'm kind of having come into this podcast, right? Ideally, I want them to be individuals who have been in the field for at least 5 years. The ideal candidate has been in the market or the industry that you're talking about for at least 10 years, right? That's the idea because you want someone who's been in it. One of the book mentions like if you have like 10 years of experience in something, then you're pretty much a master at it. That's if you've done real estate actively for 10 years. I know some people they mentioned like, oh, I've been an agent for 10 years, but they've sold like maybe a house a year or something, right? Guys
Yeah.
like myself, maybe. So
Number is actually 1,000. Anything I don't know who said it, where
it was
somewhere I
like
read.
10,000 hours. It was 10,000 hours of
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
called a mastery, right? Okay, Khid. So let's kind of get right into it, right? So the first question that I want to bring up, and we'll build up on the type of controversy, right? In terms of what people may have gotten offended by, whatever it may be. We'll start with something simple, right? Because I think this might be something practical for people to get benefit from. And again, I've given you a background of what I'm going to ask you, just so you have some level of preparation. So there was a post you made in 2022. You mentioned that it's better for you to take on a 30-year mortgage at the age of 18 than to take out a student loan to get a bachelor's degree. Changed my mind.
Yeah.
Um, let's start with you first explaining where you're coming from. Why would you mention
Yeah.
that getting a 30-year mortgage for an 18-year-old, right, plus 30 is better? And it's a blanket statement, right? Because you're not making any exceptions in this. So my first question would be, are you considering exceptions or are you just saying, no, it's just better overall? Go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna give background to this after addressing all these posts. Okay, why I do it. Okay, so let's just address the post that directly, right? In my again, it's my opinion, right? In social media, it's all like these days, all opinionated, and in my opinion, there are some exceptions. If you are there is a certain field, the field of medicine, the field, there are certain specialized fields where going into taking a student loan is required, and probably buying a house at the same time is not feasible, right? So there is certain exception, but even beyond those, it's probably like 5% exception. But 95% of people, it's probably better for them. Again, you have to know my background to know why I say this, right? College dropout, engineering college, school dropout. I mean, look at yourself, right? You got out of graduating with an engineering degree, now doing completely something different. When I came to this country about 17 years ago, I initially came in, graduated from high school in like 6, 7 months. Not a great high school, but yeah, average, below average high school. And I was in Wayne State with a partial ride engineering school, and I was there for 2.5 years while studying. 2 years into it, big threes filed bankruptcy, and I start seeing laid off engineers teaching us. I did the math, and I'm always a person that looks at the long term and looks at the long vision. And I wasn't that smart back then, but I'm pretty proud of myself for making the decision. I decided to drop out of school because I understood American education system is pretty much set up to get you into this whole industry, the industry of student loan. It's an industry set up to get you enslaved into the workforce, where you don't have a lot of option. You have to submit to whatever opportunities you get. You cannot push your potential to the limit because you have a certain amount of debt on you, and that pretty much like backs you or sets you back as far as your life goals and long-term vision and your true potential. So coming from that perspective, taking on student loans, especially like I would say 80%, it's a big number, and you can go do your research, of college degrees don't amount to a good paying job. 80% of college degrees that actually like are issued out are on subjects and topics that are not focused. People with business degrees don't run businesses, right? People with business degrees don't actually get a job on business administration. I just
So
spoke with someone just the other day who graduated with business and did not like was working at a Verizon store.
no, that's I understand that, but okay. So you preface this by mentioning that there are some professions, like people who become physicians, for example. You're
Yeah,
looking at those as exceptions, right?
yeah, very few. Yep.
Because for me, like this is my personal view, a lot of people want to become doctors and they don't, and actually that's probably much riskier, in my opinion, to put 4 years into a degree, not go to medical school for whatever reason, not because you're not smart enough, maybe you have family issues, financial issues, etc., and then you end up with a degree that's probably not as practical to
Yeah.
get a job with. I'd
Mhm.
rather go and become an engineer. Again, this is my 2 cents, but so you are saying that there are exceptions to it. That's the
There
first
are
thing to
very few
clarify, right?
exceptions. You have to be very passionate about that topic or subject, or you have to have a long-term vision of contribution with whatever you're going to learn. So you're going to use whatever it is that you're going to learn, and you have a very high passion in that field. That's the exception. But now let's get into why mortgage, right?
Right, right. That's the second part. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't a sales pitch, right? It wasn't because, oh, I'm in real estate and I'm wanting people to buy a house instead of getting a degree. Not at all. You just do basic math, right? You just look at like mathematically. Okay, 10 years ago, this statement probably would be untrue because of the level of opportunities available today. Today, if you're just doing it for money, right, you're just going to make money. Anyone without a college degree, without a high school diploma these days are making there are millionaires out there, right? So there's so much opportunity in the job business, whatever, entrepreneurship. That's why the degree doesn't hold as much value. But now, if you look at it mathematically, if you do the math on buying a house when you're 18-year-old, even if it's a 30-year mortgage and it takes you 30 years, nobody takes a 30-year mortgage and sticks with the 30-year mortgage. But the level of equity you would earn as far as wealth, um, money you would save from rent, if you
Those numbers, like, even I can agree with you easily. Anyone who knows about real estate can agree with you. But here's the real question: how do you expect an 18-year-old to have a 5% down payment at the bare minimum? And if
borrow
you're saying they're buying this
go
for
borrow
investment,
it.
20%.
Borrow it from your parents. If you were to go buy, if you were to like go to school and tell your parents,
But you're
"Oh,
talking
I
about a
need
select
ten
you're talking about
thousand
a select
dollars
group
for
of
this,"
people. You're talking about a select group of people whose parents have, let's say, $20,000 at least, because you're doing 20% at this point, not
look,
5%, right?
if you were coming out of school, right, and you ask, or you coming out of high school, and you want to go to this prestigious, I don't know, Princeton or Yale or Harvard,
No,
and
just like the Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is expensive
Ann
enough.
Arbor. Yeah, and you tell your parents that, okay, for me to get into this school, I need $20,000. I guarantee you, even if your parents don't have it, like especially coming from the immigrant background, they will borrow it and give it to you, right? So it's never about the resource. Being in business for 10 years, I have realized one thing, or if I were to give one advice to anyone and everyone, is that resources is not the thing that stops anyone. It's being resourcefulness, right? So if an 18-year-old was to be convinced that he needs buying a house is better for him, or it doesn't have to be a primary home, it could be an investment property, even 20% down, right? And he's convinced on that and he became resourceful, I'm sure he would find it.
Okay, so going on this topic of resourceful, this goes into the next controversial comment. And again, not everything is controversial, but I'm just saying it for the sake of the actual topic of the video. You made a comment on April 5th. You mentioned that, I'm just
Why
saying
you
it because
gotta put dates, bro?
to show that it actually happened. I don't want to just say it just came out of nowhere. The next ones I won't put the dates, okay? But you mentioned this. You said, look, you said poverty is a choice. Changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'll let you speak on your background on this statement for maybe a minute or so, and then
Yeah.
I'll ask some questions.
Yeah, so poverty is really a choice. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. Exceptions are people that are, they are not physically fit, right? They don't have all the physical characteristics a standard human being should have, right? So those people are really exception to this statement. But poverty is definitely a choice, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of how poor you were born, regardless of how poor your parents were, regardless of what country you were born. Why? You can always look into poor countries. There are rich people, right? And yes, a lot of them, majority of those rich people in poor countries become rich through wrong means, right? Like by corruption and cheating people and stealing from people. But there is a percentage of people, even in the poor countries, that change their circumstances and become rich through hard work, right? And that's basically the preface of that statement. And of course, I'll tell you why I said it in the way I said it later. But poverty, my belief, poverty is a choice. Uh, uh, Being wealthy is a choice. Now, when people think of poverty and being wealthy as a state, yeah, meaning they think of as far as resources, you kind of get stuck, right? But when you think of poverty as a mindset and being wealthy as a mindset, we know the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that true richness is not owning wealth, but it's in the contentment of the heart, right? When you think from that point of view, nobody could be poor. No, if you think from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that true richness is in the contentment of the heart. If you think of that statement, that kind of like takes out all of the controversy around the statement, that poverty is a choice. Exactly, poverty is a choice because the prophet said, if the heart is not content, even with the amount of wealth you have, you would still be poor.
So a follow-up question, I mean, that makes sense to me, right? Uh, but the question that I have is that when we say poverty is a choice, how do you define poverty? That's my first question. Other than this whole discontentment of the heart,
Yeah,
in terms of physical means of material,
yeah.
how are you defining poverty?
So it's not being poor. Poverty is not being uh, having less, being broke, right? It is really a mindset, right? If in your mindset you you have like, oh, you are kind of like victim mindset, right? Oh, I don't have what it takes to be successful, and you kind of like got yourself stuck. You are in poverty, and you are in poverty by choice.
So are there people who are not victims?
uh, Even a victim could not become not victim if they choose to not be victim. Even a person that is a
So you're
un
talking about a level of sheer will to
will.
really overcome, because there are some people, and this is where the argument kind of comes in, right? There are some people who are limited by their environment around them. And the example that I'll give is the following: people whose parents set them back. Those are the people that are closest to you. People whose spouses limit them, and these are the people that you love the most,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you're pretty much in an environment.
They're
There's
still
people
choice.
around you who
They're
don't give
still
you.
choosing. They're choosing to submit to those people's standards, or the standards set on you by people. You're choosing to subscribe to that is a choice.
Okay. So in the overall end of things, there are some people who will, let's say, make the best possible choices and they're always remaining in a rut. How do we speak about that? Because
Um,
that's beyond it. Like imagine someone who's working their hardest from their background. What now, whether they're
from that
growing up in the hood of, gang fights or whatever it may be, or they're coming from a family who's just too many kids, not enough money, and it's just disparity of finances, different backgrounds, right?
yeah,
And they're just doing their best. They're going through the system as much as they can. They're
yeah.
15, 17. How do you define that for them? Isn't that out of their?
I'll make it simple, right?
Go
So
ahead.
if you are working in McDonald's, right?
Right.
I don't
Sure.
know what the wage is right now, 14, $15, right?
Sure.
And you have 6 mouths to feed, right? And
Uh-huh.
you're choosing to work at McDonald's
Uh-huh.
instead of acquiring another skill set that will get you a higher paying job. That's a choice you made, right? Maybe you lack the knowledge, maybe you lack the understanding, but it's still a choice you made to work more hours for less money. That is the reason why you are in poverty. You're not really assessing, okay, I have this much need, I have this much time, how can I put the best use of my time?
How
So
do you?
even people who are working really hard, there are unlazy people out there, which will
Right,
be
right.
next door to
That's
you.
that's my point. How do
Yeah.
you justify like someone who lives on paycheck to paycheck, where if they need to take time away from McDonald's, they don't pay their gas bill, they don't have their electric bill paid off? How do you like? Aren't those
They
are
need to
those the exceptions you're
strategize.
talking about,
They
or
need to
no?
reassess. Yeah, I'm talking about exactly those people who are working hard, right? But they're working hard in the wrong place, right? So they need to reassess their situation. And one of my reason why I made that post is to trigger that thought process in people is that, am I poor by choice? Right? They need, every single person need to ask themselves and really face the truth for themselves, is that, are they poor by choice? Are they choosing to be comfortable, even though it's not comfortable to work in McDonald's, but because it is safe? Are they choosing safety over growth? Right? Every person need to ask
No,
themselves that.
100%. That I mean, on the other end of it, right? Let's say look at like our parents, right? The elder generations, all of them chose safety, right? And that was pretty much probably the biggest argument that came on your post, because people said, look, especially for immigrants. I
Yeah,
mean,
some people
I'm
said
only
that,
going to
like, you
speak
should be
about it.
thankful to your father.
No, the only reason I'm speaking about immigrants is because I cannot relate, because I don't come from backgrounds of like gang fights and crazy things. And that's not my background. I can't speak to that, right? But in terms of the background that I do have, with immigrant parents, their number one thing was what's the safest route where I can make an income come in. So is your point that look, people who just don't have anyone sharing the knowledge with them, that's still their choice? Like, how do you even?
Okay, so again, I said it before. If 10 years ago, maybe some of this stuff would be completely like ridiculous, right? Some of the stuff that I post, right? But in today's world, it actually applies. Like poverty is a choice.
Sure.
So,
Okay, I can kind of relate to that. Okay, go ahead.
so you go to youtube.com, right? I'm
Mhm.
sure everyone, like I see, like especially the immigrant families these days are on YouTube, right? They're
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
like
Everyone's on YouTube.
cooking
Yeah.
shows and all
This
this
is
stuff,
also on YouTube. So yeah.
right? So it's the knowledge these days, information is so available
Mm,
that you have to choose to be poor to be poor.
mm.
uh, I'll do a shameless plug, right? It's like you want to learn real estate, you look up Syed Mohsin, right? You want to learn something, I don't know, make money on e-commerce, you look up, there is like gurus on every single topic that's out
Mm.
there, right? So
So you're
how can
more
you?
about like the current context. I think some people, right, when they read your post, they're the reason they might feel offended or upset or triggered is because they're going back into their past and they're looking at people who did work extremely hard, right?
Yeah.
And you're speaking about new
Today,
generation,
yeah,
right?
today,
New
not
generation.
really, not like dismissing all the people that worked
Sure, yeah.
hard or were poor in the past, but they didn't have the option like we do.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now let's go up to the next one, right? And this one was we just talked about it before we got on live, right? You
The
said two
nine
of
to
them.
five.
Huh? Yeah, yeah.
The
Let's talk
nine-
about that. Right? How about you can introduce it yourself.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so the post was, and this was one of the most controversial one. I took a lot of heat for this one. Is that I said you are lazy if you settle for 9 to 5, and the reason I forget the exact wording, but basically my thought process when I was posting it is that you are lazy if you're settling for 9 to 5 is the key word, right? Because you are just satisfied with milking. Most likely, you're milking someone else's clock, right?
So
Because
what?
of
Let's
yeah.
mention it one more time. So you were saying someone is lazy if they work a 9 to 5 job, which could be a
If they
corporate
settle
job,
for it, if
McDonald's
they
job.
settle for a 9 to 5, yeah.
Okay, okay. So someone settles for a 9 to 5 job, which could be a corporate job, a McDonald's job, whatever it may be, because they are milking the corporation's money and time. Is that what you're saying?
Time, yeah.
Okay, time. Okay, go ahead. Speak on that.
Yeah. So now this understanding, right? The post really is supposed to trigger the thought process of like taking accountability of a person's time, right? The way I look at it, people that are working 9 to 5 for a living, there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, I didn't say that in the post because I wanted to make it controversial. But they are really selling themselves short because they are settling to spend 8 hours a day, certain hours a week and certain hours a year, and they're just stuck there, right? And their potential or their ability to make either money or contribute to the society, basically their impact that they have, the potential impact that they have could be much higher. Now there is a certain percentage of the population probably fall into exception where they have no other, like they don't have skill sets, and they don't, even then, like they could learn further skill set and get better at like contributing much more than just going for 9 to 5. But the real thought process it's supposed to trigger with this post is your accountability with time. Knowing a lot of these 9 to 5 jobs these days, specifically these days, maybe 10 years ago it didn't apply, is that a lot of those people, especially the people that I know who work 9 to 5, they're not really working 9 to 5, probably working good 5 hours out of the 8, 9 hours that they get paid for. And corporations themselves, they actually have a pay structure where they account for 3 hours of wasted time. They know the people will waste time and they account for it in the pay structure, right? And then they decide on how much they're going to pay people for that 9 to 5 job, right? So knowing that, knowing some of these people are wasting time and they know they waste time, right? this post is supposed to trigger, like, are you really earning your wealth in a halal manner? Are you really, just because everyone else is just, milking the clock, are you also milking the clock? Are you lazy? As far as, of course, a lot of people, the way I worded it, they took it as like, oh, I'm saying working 9 to 5 is a bad thing. But even beyond that, we'll talk about why I put it in wordings like that. Beyond that, the thought process is, you could work a 9 to 5 now, it's okay because of your need, right? But you should always strive to become independent as far as your time and as far as your wealth, because our God-given purpose requires us to focus more on impacting the society that we live in, community that we live in a much higher level than just settling for a 9 to 5 job and giving back all of our energy and effort into that corporation, and then coming back to, even most people that I know of that is like committed to a career, 9 to 5 career, they don't really work 9 to 5, more like they work 9 to 7 or 7 to 5, right? Because of the commute time, they come home drained. Okay, it's designed to get you tired, just enough tired for you to go home, take rest, come back to that 9 to 5, and like you're completely drained until the weekends. And weekends you don't want to do anything else but relax. Okay,
Right.
our God-given purpose is not that. Okay, I know that for sure. Okay, it's not to be stuck into this 9 to 5 hamster wheel and have not have energy, not have anything else that we can impact the society with.
So, like from my end, right, I've been on both sides of it, right? I've worked as an engineer 9 to 5. Yeah, I've worked where I only work maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. Like I'm just being honest, right? Uh, Work would be done, like my meetings would be done by let's say 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Even the directors' meetings are done by 4 p.m. sometimes, right? And the work is until 5. And many of the times you're just at the office because you kind of have to be at the office. I mean, in today's time, people are working remote, so just imagine, right? And I mean, I'm not gonna say anything about halal haram. That's not my place to say anything. But I guess what we can agree on is that it may be unethical to not give your best, right, toward the company that's paying you a certain amount of time that
Yeah,
you're expected to work towards. And I think pretty much everyone will pretty much agree on that, right?
yeah,
Um, I wanted to share something based on the last comment you made. You talked about the hamster wheel, and you talked about that. Hey, in the weekend, people want nothing to do but relax. And subhanallah, this is the craziest thing. I think 9 to 5 is actually very healthy for a lot of people because it helps them wake up early in the morning because they have to go, let's say 8 to 5, right? They have to wake up at 7. Many people maybe are not able to wake up for Fajr, right? But because of their job, maybe Alhamdulillah, somehow they wake up. Allah has different ways of waking people up for to pray, for example, right? That's a good thing. Now, I've also realized that man, weekends are the worst thing for people who work in corporate because they don't want to get up, right? I know that. I'm talking about me,
true,
right?
it's a true test of faith, right? For those people on the weekends.
No, I'm talking about me, right? Like I was talking to someone, they said, what's your plan for tomorrow? I said, I actually have a showing at 8 a.m. Tomorrow's Saturday, I have a showing at 8 a.m. I'm okay with that. I'm not like, oh my God, because I don't think about weekend anymore. It's not the same thing for me because I'm in a different gear or mindset, right?
Cycle.
Yeah, sure.
Different hamster wheel.
Well, yeah, different hamster wheel, right? I'm also drained. But I've noticed that putting the whole 9 to 5 or entrepreneurship aside, just as human beings, we are becoming extremely complacent to this lifestyle that this capitalistic country is gearing us towards. And
Yeah,
this is a fact that I genuinely believe, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur, because even with entrepreneurs, they have this same disease in their heart where
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
really money driven, right? And it's like, what's the next big thing for me to do? And I'm like, man, like, what are you like? There are people who will make enough money, then they make more than enough money, and then they say, I'm gonna go get a second job to make more money. And I'm like, why don't you use that time to, and I'm just speaking about Muslims in this case, why don't you use that time to like give back to the masjid or spend time with your family and connect with the masjid or something with the masjid, like for Muslims, like. And it's insane. That whole idea of weekend is coming, so nothing should be on my mind, and that you ignore the masjid as well.
Yeah.
That's actually even more dangerous, right? um, and that's I wanted to just share that. But hey, let's go into the next question, which is the last post, right? And then we're gonna. I remember I said the beginning of part of this interview are the posts, and then we're gonna kind of transition over to the why, which is
Yeah.
what you brought up, and then we'll talk about a bit of what you can potentially offer to other people about your marketing experience, inshallah.
Yeah. Sure.
Right. So the last post that I want to kind of, well, maybe it's the second to last. Actually, there's one more. So this post we spoke about again before getting on. You said about manhood, and you talked about men who require or ask their woman to help them. Right? You're not a real man if you're asking help from your woman. Um, how about you just introduce
Yeah.
us?
So basically, the post was, "You are not a real man if you are requiring your women to contribute to your household." So the thought process behind, again, is like
Financially, you're saying contribute to household because
financially,
obviously,
yeah, financially,
yeah,
you're not a
financially.
man if you contribute, if you're asked your it comes from, I see this a lot, especially even these days with Muslims, right? But in American society, in our society that we live in, it's like a lot of women have to put up 50%, right? But I'm starting to see this in the Muslim community, even like people that I know within families and friends, is that women are working, and then when you have this conversation, like, wow, why are you going through this hardship, right? Like, kids are in, babysitting, and nobody's looking after what the kids are learning, and kids are just like being raised by YouTube and, Coco Melon, and all this stuff, right? Because of the absence of mothers in households. And I'm starting to realize that, people are just following the trend or following the norm of the society of, oh, okay, the men are a little bit more relaxed now, having to like take care of being the kawam or being the caretaker, because women having to contribute 50%. Now, there is exceptions to this post too, right? The exception is there are people who have to do it out of need, right? The real need, not the need that, oh, we would like to live a luxury lifestyle and like to go to 3 vacations a year, and that's why my women have to go work, right? That's not a need. I'm talking about need, like real poor, poverty situation where the person, the man, is not capable, right? Let's just say physically not capable, then the women have to go do it, right? Or
Or in the case of, just to chime in, or in the case of many immigrants who came in, like husband and wife, they both had to go and work
yeah,
just to pay the bare minimum of the
yeah,
household bills. But go
yeah.
ahead.
Even in those cases, there are those cases, the man, if he was real man, he would have to upgrade his skill sets in a period of time, right? To get the women out of the income, right? And not just got settled for, oh, okay, now that you're working, I'm working, this is the lifestyle, right? That's how we do it. But even in those cases where there is a real need, a real man would actually take it upon himself to go out there, get the skill sets required to earn the income that he would need to earn to provide for the family. And even beyond, see a lot of women on that post. I had a lot of women who actually supported me for saying that. They were like, "Ooh, go you! We support you." And then there were some posts. There were some women who came in as like, "So, what are you trying to say? Women are not allowed to work?" Like they took a whole different angle on it and thought that I'm trying to say women are not. It's not. That's not the fact, right? Women are allowed to work, and this is the controversy, right? Is that which those women would also agree to, is that their money is their money, right? And when I was saying that in the post, is creating the conversation, a lot of a lot of men were really pissed off about that. That what are you saying? Women's money is women's money. They need to contribute, right? So
You said men were upset about the fact that.
upset about the fact that women's money is women's money.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
I have these conversations on a daily, like not on a daily basis, but on a regular basis with actually Muslim men, where I tell them women's money is women's money, and they feel some type of way, right? They don't feel like it's fair because women also need to contribute. That's if you look at contribution only at a monetary value, right? And dismiss all the things our mothers and our sisters and women in our society that they do as far as giving impacting raising a society, right? Giving birth in itself should give them like the whole lifetime off, right? But beyond that, like raising children and feeding them, right? Like I have a newborn baby, like I know how much work it takes for my wife to raise our new son, right? Versus me just sitting here doing my work, right? It's much more easier. Yes, nature of work today is much more simpler than in the past. In the past, men, real men, worked way more harder, right, to provide for their family without requiring before the 70s, the women working wasn't even a thing. They were not even allowed, right? Like society wasn't even a norm in the society. And imagine thousands and thousands and tens and thousands of years of human civilization getting by without requiring women to work, right? Without requiring women in the household to contribute to the household financially. But just over the last 30 to 50 years, because women were allowed to go into the workforce, in my controversial opinion, that was the biggest scam pulled on women to allow women to work in the
Well,
workforce.
there's a whole wage gap for women. Like
Yeah,
corporations asked women to come in, they saw women were more serious about the job than men. Like
because
let's
they
hire
were not.
these guys who care more because they never got the opportunity to work, and let's pay them less, and let's just let that be, right? And let's create this whole idea of a babysitting system and feed more into the consumeristic lifestyle where it's just like everything is an exchange of money, which is insane because in today's time people decide decisions based upon money. And I want to just mention this. For example, and I mentioned this many times in the community as well, there's a leader of every household. So let's say in my household, right, I live with my father. He's the leader of the household. Now, if I make more money, does that mean I decide what happens with the household? Is that like, no? Money has nothing to do with it. Money has nothing to do with who makes the decision. The
No.
decision is made by the person Allah assigned to make the decision.
Yeah.
And I think like because we're so focused into money, 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 and this whole idea of everyone needs to work. So now everyone's like, yo, if everyone needs to work, then the guy who's making more money is better than the guy who's making less money, or the woman who's making more money is
That's
better than the man who's making less
that's what's
money.
happening in Muslim house. Well, American household, you can't really talk about that. Like they
Well,
choose
that's
whatever.
not our
But
context.
in Muslim
Context.
households, man is the caretaker and decision
Right.
maker and the leader. It's happening in Muslim households where the man is becoming more like a woman, and women in the household is deciding. I know of families. I could like count them on my finger, like
Let's
or
not do
top of
that
my
part, but
head,
okay.
right? Where and it's like because of the money factor, right? And because it's like kind of like a God's punishment. I swear, I'm telling you,
It's
it's
sad
like
because we're letting money dictate what
yeah,
happens. Like it's sad when you think about this idea because there's a whole idea of individualism in America, right? So when my mother took care of me her entire life, right? My mother does not have a college degree. So let's say I end up becoming an engineer. I have quote unquote more education than my mother, right?
yeah,
On paper. And so I end up making more money. My mom worked maybe minimum wage. I made an engineering salary. So now I just get to say, "Who are you?" No,
yeah.
we can't do. That's
There
insane.
is there
That's
is a
insane.
sign of day of judgment where the mothers will give birth to their masters,
Right,
right?
right, right,
This is it. This is it. Where the son or daughter starts making more money, becomes more educated, and the things that and we are guilty of it too, right? Things that we know better than our parents, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
So going back to this discussion of you said like men are what did you say? You're not a real man. You're not a real man, right?
If you
If you're allowing a
require,
woman in your household. So I think the main point of clarification you made, at least from me hearing you, was it at the beginning where you said that you are not talking about those individuals who need to actually work because they're in an impoverished lifestyle.
yeah,
Rather, you're talking about those people who are completely fine with one income, but they themselves, like having the contentment of the heart, they just want more out of this world. So
yeah.
now they're like, we just gotta go on 2 3 vacations,
Yeah.
and
Even if it's mutual, even if it's mutually agreed upon,
well,
right?
yeah,
It's
I'm saying
not,
the same thing. I'm saying the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yeah,
the entire household can agree upon it. It's not healthy, and it's
yeah.
against the Sunnah idea of how you should spend your money. I mean, you should always have time for your family. You should always have time to enjoy life overall. But to say that my lifestyle has to change by 50K, 70K, 100K, 150K, that's concerning.
It's bro, it's sad. We were driving by. It was a couple of days ago. We were driving by. There's this daycare by our house, and it says infants, toddlers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm like, infants?
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
take infants for daycare?
No, you have to understand this. Look, think of what you're saying right now. You're saying there is a system that takes infants only if you have enough money. Look at what's happening. So
And
people
COVID
who don't
changed
have
that, by
money
the
are
way.
not going to babysit to begin with. So people
Yeah,
who have more than enough money are
yeah.
the ones actually
Yeah,
sending their children to
and
babysitting.
COVID changed it big time. Okay, so because of
Yeah,
COVID, a lot of women have realized that it's not worth it for them to keep the job because they think about the gas COVID, inflation, whatever you want to
sure.
blame it on, right? They look at the cost of babysitting and they do the math, the wages. It doesn't make sense. Where take out the commute costs, take out the cost for babysitting and all of that. What are you left with? Is it really worth it, right? And it's for most people it's not worth it, but end of the day it comes down to this, is that whether it is for a higher lifestyle, right, and it's mutually agreed upon, it's wrong because the role of a mother, it has now there is no kids, I get it, right, but the role of a mother is a role of a mother. You cannot substitute that, right? And the second is bigger, like where I'm more I'll be more controversial about, is that you're not really a real man if you're requiring, just because you want to feel you, it doesn't make feel fair to you to take care of your household like that. That's your god-given purpose. That's why you are a man. Otherwise you would have been born as a woman.
Yeah, so just to give some context to what you're saying, this comes from the Quran and Sunnah that it's an obligation upon the men of the household to provide for all financial matters of the home,
Mhm.
right? And it doesn't mean that the man of the household has to provide an extravagant lifestyle for the home either. Some people misunderstand this, right? And they say, well, we live in a 1,200 square feet house and you're supposed to provide, so give me a 2,000 square feet house or give me a 3,000 square feet house.
That's the
This is not
women oppressing men.
so this is not what it's saying, but it is an actual obligation. The same way praying Jum'ah for men in the masjid, Jum'ah is an obligation. So okay, khair. I think we talked about that to a certain extent. That and then the last thing, and this is not really controversial, but a few people told me to ask about this. They just wanted clarification because they're like, okay, this guy's getting a chance to, I guess, explain himself, right? So someone asked me, hey, and again, I'm just gonna ask the question. I'll let you speak to it, right? Someone said, "Hey, why did Syed Mohsin post a feedback from his old brokerage that had nothing to do with what he's doing right now?" And then the broker, I mean, by right, he is saying he didn't give that feedback. Instead of why not? Why didn't he just dismiss it? Why didn't Syed Mohsin just delete the post and just let it be? Why did he kind of go at it? And where's he coming from, right? And I'm just asking the question, but I'll let you answer however you want to go ahead.
I wish you didn't ask me, but it's okay. Good question.
No,
Okay,
because the
it
reason why
was
I'm asking,
intentional.
so
Yeah.
the reason why I'm asking is because look, Rasulullah SAW told us always to make things transparent because shaitan flows through our veins, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that means basically we're understanding the idea of people assume things, people are always suspicious, people assume negative, right? And a good brother of mine once told me, like, look, Sayed, it's better to just make things clear in the open even if you're wrong,
Mhm.
because at least you can say I've said it publicly and this is my statement,
Sure.
versus just being caught up with people's confusion. Yeah, sometimes you don't pay mind to it. You just ignore it, you move on, right? And then sometimes it's like, okay, it's an easy explanation. And I was looking at it, I'm like, all right, I can see where both parties are coming from, right? But since I'm interviewing you, I might as well just ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So certain truth has to be exposed. That's the principle that God exposes it in His ways, and there is. certain situations, people of truth have to take the responsibility of exposing certain truth, right? Without talking too much into details, my intention was to expose a certain truth, right? To expose a certain truth to myself as far as my nature of relationship to the person. But beyond that, everyone else who is being oppressed in the way I look at it, in this picture, needed to see the truth for themselves. So my intention was very intentional when I posted the feedback, right? To show the true color of certain people. I don't know if that satisfies the answer.
Oh,
Why
for
didn't
me,
I take it off?
no.
Yeah.
So I'll ask in a different way. I'll phrase it differently, because I get what you're doing, and I kind of appreciate you leaving ambiguity within the response, because what we don't want to do is cause corruption. Like, remember, this whole discussion is about controversy. We don't want to get in. Like, I personally don't. Right? I'm not a guy who wants to get into controversy, but the reason, this is how I took it. So you tell me if my analysis is correct. So being a third person reading it, from your perspective, you're posting it as, this was actually in fact said, and I have the right to display something
Yeah.
that was said about me.
Yeah.
And from Amin Bhai's perspective, when I read his comment when he said, look, this is puffery at best, from his perspective, I can sympathize in the sense that he's saying, look, you used to be a part of my brokerage. Right now, technically, not technically, officially, if you're part of any other brokerage, you're essentially a competitor. So
Yeah.
to use your, like, it's like saying, it's like Pepsi saying Coke thinks we are fantastic. Coke would be so upset. Like, why would you even say that? And that's kind of what the other people are saying. Hey, Syed Mohsin, why
It,
even post it?
I got it. Okay. So look, testimony is testimony, right? In front of God, timeline doesn't matter. What side you're in doesn't matter. Results are results. Impact is impact. Contribution is contribution, right? And until the day of judgment, it's gonna not matter which brokerage I'm with right now or which brokerage I was with. None of that would matter. My contribution stands in front of God, and any testimony that is made on behalf of me, I mean, you have given testimony, and I will probably in the future use it. Whether you are with me or without me, doesn't matter. Testimony is given, right?
So
Now,
that's basically how you're looking at it. You're looking at it as at face value, right?
yeah, face
And that's
value.
kind of the best defense I was able to give to your end. I didn't speak on your behalf because I don't want to do that, because what if I'm misspeaking, right? So I just said, okay, you know what? I'll just ask him casually. But I think I understand where you're coming from, in the sense that, look, I'm looking at it as face value. It was in fact said, so I'm just saying it. I get the other side too, but I don't want to go too deep into it, because that's kind of what I wanted to just have
Yeah,
you.
but a little
Go
bit
ahead,
more.
go ahead.
Okay, wait. So testimony is testimony. It doesn't matter where is what, right? Now, if you are, I don't look at, if you want to be specific, I don't look at I'm in realty to be competition at all, right? Since it's been over a year, I left the brokerage. I have been at every single one of their grand opening to support them, right? Every possible way I could support them, I support them. I still, even till this day, there are agents from the brokerage who call me for advice, and I give them advice. No strings attached. Don't try to recruit them by giving them advice. Don't, free coaching, right? And I give it to anyone else equally, right? So I don't look at it as competition. It's really not my fault if they looked at like me promoting myself, using their testimony from before as like, oh, you're my competition now, so it's wrong for you to use our testimony that we gave.
Oh, by the way, the people I'm speaking about, none of them were from Amin Realty. They were like
Yeah,
your
sure.
friends,
You
random
get
people.
it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
just for
get it.
clarity.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's not a competition thing. I never looked at it as competition. I wasn't trying to use my competition's testimony. I was just looking at testimony, using the testimony. Now, beyond that, uh, when I talked about exposing the truth and checking the nature of a person, and why didn't I take it down, right? If this, like, once this was posted, right? If someone reached out to me privately and said, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable you posting this, right? Please take it down." I hands down, I would have taken it down right away. I would have felt embarrassed. but I know the nature of people, right? Knowing even how they would react to it, I did what I did, right? And that's why it's still posted. Not only that, it's beyond, it's sponsored, right? It's being promoted still. So that's it. That's the end of that controversy. Let's leave it there,
No,
right?
no, that helps. That clarifies.
Anyone,
And I kind of appreciate the fact that you mentioned that you still go to their openings and you support them, right? Because what people might think is like, oh, this guy is like anti, I mean, realty or something, right? And like, I still am in good connections with the agents there, right?
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
any agents there who I have good connection with, who still don't, have not lost respect for me just because I'm not with them, like, oh, you're not with us, you're against us mindset, right? Could not say anything negative about me, right? Could not say I have done something to harm the image or anything, right? But if you look at like, oh, you posting a testimony about you using our name is harming us,
Well, I'm not,
I
and again,
don't
I'm
know.
not saying that either. I'm not saying they said that. Again,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm saying my friends who are
yeah.
always liking to waste time on social media to find things to talk about and send screenshots, and they're probably gonna watch this.
My
Don't,
fans, are they my fans? Just
no, they're
kidding.
not your friends.
The
But okay,
haters.
Syed,
No, I'm just kidding.
let's go into this because you spoke about this briefly in your answer. You said that, oh, you help coach agents, right? So I'm gonna shift before we go into that. You said you were gonna explain why you make the word so
Yeah.
controversial. So go
Yeah.
ahead, tell me why you make it so controversial.
Okay, so end of the day, right? We are living in the era of the war of attention. There is a war of attention going on 24 hours a day. Like literally, when you're sleeping, you're thinking about something, right? Right? And we are bombarded with so much information. We have to pay attention so much that even when we are sleeping, we are subliminally we are paying attention to something these days, right? So it is a war of attention. The person that as far as marketing and business, the brand or the person that captures the most attention is kind of the most either profitable or will get more business or whatever. However, much you, even when you look at the dean perspective, right? If you if you are able to capture attention, you would make more impact as far as dawa, right? Because people are also paying attention to the wrong thing. So the positives also have to amplify and capture some attention to be able to make some impact. It doesn't even have to make as much if take as much attention as far as all the negative things out there, because of the power of God and Allah. We just have to do a little bit, right, as far as attention. So it's a war of attention. So kind of preface why I do what I do. Now controversy, right? It's you can use controversy, you can use humor, right? You can use entertainment, right? These days, controversy is probably the most entertaining thing, right? That people are attracted to, people pay more attention to. If there is no, if it's just funny, they don't pay much attention. So I choose controversy. Now, beyond all of this, you have to have your purpose, the reason why you're doing whatever you're doing, right? Because if you're doing it for the wrong reason, right, just because you want attention, it's not going to play out right in the long run, right? Just because you want to be famous or just because you want to even make money, that you have to be I want to make sure that people get that right, is that social media and marketing and all of this, right? Like the grabbing attention and all of that, if done for the wrong reason, will amount to wrong, right? But if done for the right reason, would eventually, it might, sometimes you might say something wrong and you might get canceled, right? But eventually it will play out right because you did it for the right reason, right? One of the examples I can use is, you guys know Evan, right? Evan, who
Yeah, yeah,
converted Islam, alhamdulillah.
yeah, mashallah. Yeah, yeah.
God, Allah is the one who guides, right? But did you know how I got connected with him?
No, I don't know.
It was over the post about men and women.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't even pay attention to him. I didn't even know I had him as a friend. We got friended because I don't know who added who, but he was my I went back and went to the history. How long have I been a friend with him? A long time. I never talked to him, nothing until this post. And he comes into the post that you, if you guys know him by now, those of you who know him, you know he's very childish. Like he's young, he's 19-year-old. Give him some break, right? But he's like very like he comes off really off sometimes. So he came off really off on that post, and I could have like I could have just like dismissed him, but see, the reason behind this controversial posts is to trigger thought and trigger conversations, right? That's pretty much the best practice in marketing is that you don't just do it for attention. Once you grab attention, it has to turn into relevancy and interaction, right? So once the hook, once people are hooked by the attention, right, the controversy, there has to be a story that plays out, right? There has to be back and forth interaction, and once that interaction plays out, there has to be an offer being made. That's like
Yeah,
marketing terms.
I know what you're referring to, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different, yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
different.
So
Yeah,
anyway, he came in, he said something really off. I respond back, he responds back. Like we go back and forth. It was like very off, like little really haram stuff he said on that on the post. And I didn't really like react negatively. I was just like trying to like uh, put out the fire that he was about to start, because I was very afraid of like the haram police on my friends list come in and like bash him, right? So we put out the fire a little bit, and then he messages me privately. We talk about real estate a little bit, and then a few months later, he reaches out to me again. But that was the first real interaction I had, right? The purpose was
right.
what? You get what I'm trying to say? The
Yeah,
first
yeah,
real
yeah. No, I
interaction
understand.
I had, and then he ended up becoming our client. He didn't even end up buying a house, by the way. He accepted Islam. He's not even buying a house
Alhamdulillah,
anymore. He probably will in the future. But alhamdulillah, right? Like to see,
alhamdulillah.
it's the concept is winning the war of attention, but you have to do it for the right reason, right?
Mm.
Uh, uh, how much controversy is enough controversy? In my opinion, in today's day and age, there is no limit, right?
Okay.
As long as you stay, as long as you stay within the boundaries of Islam,
Okay,
go
okay. So
on.
okay, okay. So you have to, yeah, start with that. Start
Yeah.
with that sentence, right? Because when you
No,
say
I have to.
limits,
I have to give the hook so people get like, "What? You said no limit?" Then I said Islam. And oh, you got us.
so I just hope you don't do this at your house with your wife. Like randomly say something controversial, get her on a hook, then bait her. No, but okay,
I test out hooks a lot within my people, within my family. It's like
yeah. So so for anyone who wants a tip on how to deal with Syed Mohsin's hooks, like he does that to me sometimes, and the best response is to just be silent and think about it, and then try to stay on topic with what he's not saying, because he's talking about something like, because I work in his team, right? So let's say he's upset about something, he'll say like five other things, and then I'll read it, and instead of replying quickly, I'm gonna think about it, right? And then I'm gonna read between the lines of what he's actually trying to say, and then I'm just gonna talk about that, you know. And that's what happens with many people. Unfortunately, like people jump to answering quickly, and we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to take our time and before we say something. But khair,
in
okay,
this day and age, nobody can help it because we are our attention span is so small, right? So it's like people don't have the patience anymore, right? We are at like running at 5 or 9 second attention span right now, and it's
and
gonna
this
get.
video is 58 minutes long so far, so that's why we're gonna make this into reels. Don't worry for the six people who are watching.
Definitely, people drop out already.
Yeah. Okay, so let me do this. So I wanna conclude with this point, which is really to turn it over to you, because what I do is if anyone comes and they give me the privilege of interviewing them, right? I want to at least kind of help have them showcase what they could offer to other people that are possibly watching, right? So with UIF, I had Sultan. He spoke about that. With when we had Tusharba, he spoke about Itufumma, right? And from your end, maybe you can speak a little bit about the type of marketing you do. Because I don't think that's the only thing you do. I don't think you just only post controversial stuff, right? You have a way of, for real estate agents, you have a way of generating leads potentially, right? That an agent could look into, right? And benefit from. So maybe
Yeah,
you can give whatever you think you're comfortable with sharing
yeah.
in terms of your knowledge that would benefit an agent who might be watching this, and how they could potentially benefit from you.
Sure, definitely. So, again, this could actually apply to any small businesses out there that is looking to leverage social media to generate business, right? When it comes to marketing, there is two ways of marketing yourself: either buying your way in, or working your way in. These are marketing terms. Working your way in is basically organic marketing, and buying your way in is basically paid marketing. Buying your way in is the easiest way to do it. You don't the least amount of time put in, right? But you do have to spend money. You buy leads, right? And we have systems set up around how to generate leads, and that's how we have been generating our business over the last 5 to 7 years, just buying leads, right? So buying your way in, there are different platforms, different ways. I have trainings on it. If you want to learn more about it, you can reach out to me. Now, majority of people have time and will probably choose to waste or spend their time to do the marketing, right? And again, it's real estate agents, small businesses, anyone who's looking to leverage social media. And if you're not looking to leverage social media to gain business in this day and age, I would say in the next 5, 7, by the time it hits 10 years, people or businesses that are not on social media or leveraging online platforms to gain business will probably either go out of business or work for another business that is leveraging social media, right? So organic marketing, again, this is a controversial term. I don't know if I can say the word, but how to be the SHIT on social media, right? The reason why I chose SHIT, I learned it from one of my coaches, is because it will stick to people's mind, right? Is that you have to share. So SHIT is an acronym, right? How to be the SHIT on social media with your business is that S stand for story, H stand for humor, I stand for inform, T stands for trend, right? So if you leverage social media organically, working your way in to promote your business as a real estate agent, as a small business, you have to follow this framework, right? You have to share the story of your personal journey and your business's journey. Like, what are you about? What do you stand for? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? All of those things is your story, right? What is your past history? What do you do? What do you like
for,
doing?
for an
Where do you
agent
come
for
from?
an agent listening to this, just to because I'm thinking from their perspective, right?
Yeah,
They might generally be lost, right?
yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to make it easy for them to get this. Now you said earlier, oh, if you want training, you can do that. What does that even mean for somebody? What do you mean if you want training? Like, does that mean they have to work
On
with you? They have
on
to go
paid
to
marketing?
DXP Realty? What does that mean?
Oh, you mean for paid marketing? Is that what you're saying? If you
In general, if an agent wants to benefit you, what does that even mean when you're saying there's training available? Does that mean they have to join the XP? They got to join your team?
no,
You
either
want to?
way,
That's what I think
yeah.
would benefit them.
Yeah, okay. So there are three different ways. One, you can join EXP, come join our brokerage. You would get access to all of our training. Two, you buy my coaching. You get exact step by step training on what to do. Three, you can follow me on social media and you can get free training.
So when you're saying buy your product, because let's say I'm already following you on social media, that's easy, easy answer, right? I don't want to join EXP. I like my brokerage. Now you're saying buy your product. What is making you so confident to say your product is worth buying?
Because I have bought coaching programs and training programs. This knowledge that I put into my coaching program is following proven frameworks and proven training programs. So, I mean, I could get much more deeper into that as far as results that I got in my business, the business that I have gotten. So this is all, it's not your fluff training and puffery training, right? It's actual proven strategies and training that I have implemented, learning from coaches and training programs that I invested tens and thousands of dollars into, that I implemented, got results. Now I'm sharing with whoever wants to buy it, and there are agents who are in our coaching programs who are getting results. So
Okay, so
but
that
anyway, going back to SHIT,
go ahead,
okay,
go ahead, finish up, go ahead.
sharing your story. So that this, if you don't follow me on social media, you don't buy my coaching program, you don't come to EXP, just take this for me, right?
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Is that if you are looking to leverage social media to get business, right? You have to follow this framework. Number one, S stands for story. You have to share your story, your past experiences, where you come from, what you have accomplished, your journey into whatever business you are into, right? Your hobbies, what you like doing, what you don't like doing, what do you do day to day, right? That's story, right? Second, humor. You have to share humor. So for me, it's controversy, right? Entertainment. Humor stands for not just funny, but entertainment. You have to entertain people for people to engage with your content. And there is much more detailed stuff into it. Why humor works is because when people engage into your content, when people find your content attention worthy, right? The algorithm behind the social media platforms identifies you as someone who grabs attention. And what the social media platforms want to do is grab the attention of its audience, people that are using the platform. So when you become the attention grabber, they promote you more, and that automatically promotes your other posts, even when they are not humorous or controversial. So second thing is H stands for humor. Third is I stands for inform. So you have to bring information and value to your audience. You have to inform them on things related to your business, right? For real estate agents, you have to inform them on what the market's like, inform them on what the home buying process looks like, what the home selling process looks like, what investing in real estate looks like, what is the first time home buyer needs to know and not need to know, or need to do or not need to do. So inform, right? Information. And last thing is trend. You have to share trend, or you have used trends. You have to see what are the trendy ways of creating content, right?
Hmm.
You have to follow that, because those content are already trended, right? But already working to grab attention, right, of other audiences. And you don't have to just follow real estate trends, right? You could use trends from any other businesses, right? Whatever is trendy, you have to use trends to market your content.
Okay, so that gives a pretty much good summary. But generally, if an agent is watching and you want more details about it, I will just reach out to Syed Mohsin directly, right? And do you usually charge people for consultations and stuff?
No, it's so I
It
do
was a joke. It was a joke. We don't expect you to charge any money for consultations, right? Every real estate agent in the face of this
not
world,
for now, okay?
every real estate agent in the face of this earth will not charge you for consultation. Even the luxury real estate agents, because they're selling luxury homes, they'll actually pay you to be in their consultation. So
Yeah,
it's
but I'm
free.
considering start charging people, because I got a lot of freeloaders on.
It is free for people to reach out to him, whether it's in the comments section on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll follow up from there. Do you have any concluding remarks or anything you'd like to mention before we finish off today, inshallah?
Yeah. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? As far as controversy goes and social media posts goes, sometimes we intentionally make mistakes, we unintentionally make mistakes. May Allah forgive all of us for the mistakes we have made. And end of the day, we all will go to our grave with whatever deeds we have done. So hopefully, before we get there, we rectify anything, if we may have wronged someone in any way, right? And it's never my intention, right? If anything, if I would like to correct people and myself, right? Starting with myself, before it's too late for someone to be corrected, for me myself to be corrected, right? So may Allah forgive our shortcomings and give us the ability to rectify our deeds.
Allahumma ameen. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for coming on. Inshallah, we'll conclude with that. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Brother Mohsen directly. With that, let's conclude. Inshallah, subhanaka wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant.